Couple years. I am now at graduate school at West Virginia University, and this is a stark contrast with Westminster. There we have maybe 1,500 students, Presbyterian affiliation. In Morgantown we have maybe 30,000 students. We're a land-grant institution, so our goal is to educate as far and wide as possible the residents of West Virginia and surrounding areas. So there is no religious tie at WVU. Now, walking down the street, one of my first days there, I saw the mountain lair on my right side, and you look across, and the campus ministry buildings really are begging to be led across the road onto campus. The Lutheran chapel is right across from the mountain lair that Riggle was pastor at before. But this public, large institution was a shock for me. And so was the course focus. At Westminster, I had this liberal arts ethos surrounding me, and now I was in physics courses all day, every day. I was living now in a less homogeneous world, in a world that was full of skeptics. At Westminster, my de facto assumptions about people were that, oh, they must be Christian, they're at Westminster. And that might not be fair entirely all of the time. But now in Morgantown, I'm in a world that looks very different from what I'm used to, from what I am, and it shocked me a little bit. So I fell into the Presbyterian Student Fellowship with Shelley, who also spoke during that second panel. And some of the programming that we do is a Wednesday night program and study to stay anchored with each other and with some of our traditions. But we also try to build ties with the local church, not New Wilmington, the First Presbyterian Church of Morgantown. Some of the ways we do this are by teaching Sunday school, leading worship, things like this. We've also had a vocation series where we're exploring our calling, also like Shelley said, not what job are you going to get when you graduate, but how are you going to feed your personal morality into the world. And through some of these programs, we've had a laboratory for programming. Sometimes we'll have programs that we start up, have them go for 6 months. That didn't work out so well. Let's move on to the next one. Let's keep trying, experimenting, see what we can do. And I think this sort of laboratory is really helpful if there are open dialogues between campus ministries to see what has worked for other groups in the past, what might work for you in the future. But at the bottom of my page up here, I have written in all caps, in bold font, if you can write in bold, campus ministry looks different. It looks different geographically. It looks different based on where you are in your life. This can mean that some points in life, you're going to lean towards praise music, and other days you might need some good old hymns. It looks different dependent on college. Sometimes you're going to have more access to students, like at Westminster, where you might be more geared towards a religious, historical affiliation than at these large public institutions. So navigating these are very situational dependent. I think through all of the experiences that I've had in ministry, I will tie 4 main areas that have been part of all of them. One of them is group cohesion. This means that your ministry friends aren't just your ministry friends or your Presbyterian friends, that they can work into different parts of your life. That I don't have Presbyterian friends over here and over there where I keep my other friends, right? Also, I'd like to push towards open space. Now these informal conversations that we had, the chapel at Westminster is left open for students to use if they want. It's sort of this space for grace and room to grow after you're seated by these other conversations with your campus pastors or with people that you're in classes with. You can have those deep conversations in a formal setting and then maybe open up another space somewhere else for people to feed into when and if they need to. I'd also point towards these critical and hard-hitting conversations. It sounds like I'm at a news desk right now. critical, hard-hitting. But others will be critical on our views. So if we don't engage the life of the mind through ministry, we're helping to widen that gap. Right? If we don't engage the life of the mind through ministry, we're widening this gap between the church and the ivory tower, or the church and society. And the last point that I would have here, so I said group cohesion, open space, critical and hard-hitting, would be a biblical or traditional focus, and also focus on the world, so that we are true to our tradition, true to our roots, and also growing as people of faith through the engagement of others. We're following the true teachings that we believe at our core and helping to branch out to other groups so that they know more about us, so that we know more about them. Some things that I think that we do well in these spaces are group cohesion, community space, at least at WVU and Westminster. Our group cohesion and community space, and this idea of critical, hard-hitting questions. I think this is because students will tear anything down if you give them the tools. So giving them the additional tools to help them build things back up in their lives is an important part of ministry. A place where we're still building, and where I think a lot of groups are still building, is in visibility, so that we're not just these buildings surrounding the campuses begging to be let in, but we have a presence on campus, and that's what today is all about. Also engaging with other faiths and denominations, even sects within our own denominations, because Lord knows within Presbyterian church, within Baptist church, there are people who you're sitting in pews next to who hold different views than you. So how we navigate those differences in views is very important for the life of the church, I believe. Another thing that I think is really important that we're still building on is this idea of intergenerational contact, so that you don't have a student group over here, and here's where we keep our preschoolers, and over there in that room, that's where the old folks go to worship. Having these dialogues between each other so that whenever you move into those different areas of your life, you have a basis. You know somehow how to bridge the divide between college student attending campus ministry and someone who goes out for a job for the first time to try to find a new church with their family or by themselves, so that it's not as hard to enter the world from this ivory tower with campus ministry that we might have been insulated in for quite a while.